Good morning, everyone. My name is Helen Snell, Democratic Services. I can confirm that today's meeting is now live. So, welcome everybody. Before consideration of today's business, I will outline the protocols for the meeting. Today is being recorded via Microsoft Teams. When members are speaking, they may choose to use their video. If the council's live stream fails, the meeting will be adjourned so that access can be restored. If the issue cannot be resolved, the chairman will halt the meeting and the remaining business will be concluded at a future date. If a member experiences a technical issue, the chairman will adjourn for a short period to try to re-establish their connection. As members are called to speak, the chairman will remind you to switch on your microphone. If for some reason you cannot be heard, I will also advise. The vote today is going to be taken by roll call and I will announce the result. Members must be present for the duration of the discussion on the application in order to be able to vote. We have a member of the public, the applicant's representative, here today at the meeting, and they are joining the meeting by telephone. Where a member has declared a non-registrable interest, a disclosable pecuniary interest, or an interest by virtue of any trade union membership in a matter, they must leave the virtual meeting. Their departure will be confirmed and they will be invited to rejoin the meeting at the appropriate time. To confirm the procedure for today's meeting is that members of the committee who wish to speak on an item should indicate by using the raise your hand function. So before we start today's business, I will ask the committee members to confirm that they are present and state their electoral division. Members, I will now call your name. Please confirm your name and your electoral division. Councillor Biscoe.
Okay, my name is Bert Biscoe. I'm the representative of the Boscawen electoral district in Truro.
Thank you. And Councillor Lennox Boyd.
Good morning. I'm Sheila Lennox Boyd and I represent Saltash North. Good morning.
Thank you. And Councillor Martin.
Good morning. I'm John Martin and I represent Helston South.
Thank you. I can also confirm that we have the following officers present. Mark Andrews, the legal advisor, Sarah Kent, the senior licensing officer, and myself, Helen Snell, democratic officer, and I'll be taking the notes. So if we can turn to the agenda now, item 1 is election of chairman. If I can call for nominations for chair, please. Councillor Martin.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Councillor Bert Biscoe, please, as chair.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder?
Yes, I'm happy to second. Councillor
Thank you, Councillor Lennox Boyd. Okay, if we can just go to the vote. So members, you're voting for, against or abstaining. Councillor Biscoe.
I'm for.
Thank you. And Councillor Lennox Boyd.
For.
Thank you. And Councillor Martin.
For.
Thank you. That's agreed. So over to you, Councillor Biscoe.
Right. Well, good morning, everybody, and what a wonderful morning it is. So let me ask for any apologies for absence. Probably none.
None, we're all here.
Thank you. Declarations of interest?
None. I've none.
Nope. Everybody all right? Right. So we are here this morning to consider a license application from the Spa Shop at 61 Eglishale Road, Wadebridge. We have Mr. Mitchener present. Good morning, Mr. Mitchener.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
That's
You're a lucky man. Let me outline to you, Mr. Mitchener, the procedure that we'll follow, which is probably quite well known to you anyway. The procedure will be that we will invite the licensing officer to set out the application, and at this stage you should also mention any conditions which have been suggested or agreed. Following that, members may ask questions of the licensing officer, and I will consider any requests made by the committee will consider any requests made by a party for permission to work for another person to appear at the hearing. Well, I assume, Mr. Mitchener, you're appearing for SPA.
I am indeed.
Yes, okay. So, and then the applicant, that's you, Mr. Mitchener, will be able to present your application, call any witnesses that you may have brought along, and then members can ask you questions about your presentation. There will be no responsible authorities present, I think, although there is a representation from the police, which I think is previously agreed. Representations from external responsible bodies in relation to the application. And then if there are other persons, now there are objections which we will consider, which are written into the notes, which I assume that you've seen, Mr. Mitchener.
I have, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So we will basically take those into account, and we're not going to be unable to ask any questions of the other persons. You will then be in a position to sum up if you feel you would need to, and we may seek clarification on any points that you raise in your final submission. We'll then retire, we'll obtain any legal advice, and we'll take the legal officer and the Democratic Services officer with us when we retire, and then we will return, and we will. Now, how are we doing the decision? We're reading out the decision on the day. Is that right?
Hello, Chair. It's Mark Andrews from Legal here. Yes, that's correct. We'll come back in and the decision will be read out. The gentleman will be asked to leave. He can watch the decision on the live stream, but the licensing officer will contact him in any event after the meeting. All right, just to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's good. So I think without we're just we've introduced the members. To be honest, we've already done that. So I think without any further ado, I'm going to ask the licensing officer to outline the application, please.
Thank you, Chairman.
Sarah Kent.
Thank you, Chairman. An application has been received from Wessex Retail Limited to vary the existing premises licence in respect of the spa situated at 61 Eglishale Road, Weybridge. The existing premises licence in force permits the supply of alcohol. The current timings and conditions attached to the licence are shown at pages 2 and 3 of your report. The premises is described as a ground floor convenience store, and the nature of the variation is to extend the hours for the sale of alcohol and the opening hours, to remove restrictions in respect of Christmas Day, Good Friday, to remove embedded conditions and to amend the plan. The current plan attached to the existing licence is attached to your report at Appendix 1, which is page 15. The revised plan submitted by the applicant is attached to Appendix 2, that's page 16 of the report. And we've also attached a location plan of the premises. So the premises in that plan, it's attached to Appendix 3, Chairman, which is page 17. The premises is identified by the blue cross. In fact, your agenda will be in black and white. So
that's right,
Chairman, apologies. The variation, Chairman, seeks to apply for the sale of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises Mondays to Sundays from 6 o'clock in the morning until 11 o'clock at night, and to include the hours the premises are open to the public for the same hours, so from 6 o'clock until 11. The applicant has proposed a number of conditions to promote the licensing objectives. These are shown on page 4 of your report. The application has been consulted upon as required by the Act, and we have received a number of responses. The local planning authority have responded to say that they have no objections. Devon and Cornwall Constabulary responded and submitted an initial representation. They requested that a number of the proposed conditions be removed and have suggested a number of alternative conditions instead. Full details are shown on pages 4, 5 and 6 of your report, and the applicant has advised that they've got no objections.
Sorry.
Okay. The applicant has advised that they have got no objections. Oh, hang on a second for the chairman to get off the phone.
Sorry.
Okay. The applicant has advised that they've got no objections, Chairman, to the proposed amendments and the suggested conditions. So Devon and Cornwall Constabulary have confirmed that if the proposed amendments are made to the application, that they would have no objections to the granting of the licence in the terms sought. Representations have also been received from 4 other persons. Full details of those representations are attached to appendices 6 to 9 of the report. Members, you will note that 2 of the other persons live at the same address. The other persons making representation, Chairman, we've advised them that the committee can only consider that part of the application which seeks to extend the current hours. The premises are already licensed for certain hours, and members can only consider the requested extended hours today. And as we've already said, the 4 other persons have all responded to advise that they are not able to attend today. We received responses of no objections from Environmental Protection, the Fire and Rescue Authority, Child Protection and Licensing Compliance, and no responses were received from Trading Standards, Public Health or Health and Safety. So when considering the application, the Licensing Authority must have due regard to the guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act and its adopted licensing policy. Members, we draw your attention to, but not limit it to, certain sections of the guidance and the Licensing Act policy as shown on pages 9 to 13 of your report. And the options for consideration today are to grant the application in the terms sought, grant it subject to additional conditions, grant it but modify any conditions, grant it subject to restrictions, or to reject the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Sarah. Do either colleagues have any questions for Sarah? Sheila?
No, I've none. Thank you.
Okay, John?
No, thank you. That's very clear. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right. Thank you very much, Sarah. So, Mr. Mitchener, I'd like to invite you, if you will, to present your case, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, everybody. As you've heard, this is an application for a variation to a premises licence, which is already licensed from 8 until 2300 each day, with Sundays currently being limited to 10 in the morning until 10:30 at night, to enable alcohol to be sold for the extra half an hour on Sunday evenings and an extra 2 hours each morning, Monday to Saturday, and 4 hours on Sunday morning. And this is in line with the guidelines in your own policy at page 18, section 7.16. As you've heard, we've also deposited a modified plan to update the licence, and we're seeking to remove the somewhat redundant conditions, the statutory conditions that came through from the old justices. For your information, this shop is a newly acquired unit by our clients, Wessex Retail Limited, who currently operate 15 stores across the southwest, with 5 in your Duchy area, and a further store is actually opening in the area next week. The application is limited in the sense that we're already licensed in the store until 2300, as you've heard, and we're not seeking any extension past 2300, which is our original Justices Hours license, but rather just to align Sunday to the other 6 days by adding that half hour and, of course, the morning opening hour. Nor are we seeking to extend the opening hours on the licence. These are not currently restricted at all, so actually we're offering to restrict them to the 0600 to 2300 every day. There's been no representations from responsible authorities to our application, and certainly, as you've heard, the police are content with the application, having made adjustments to our offered conditions. And we believe this to be a benign application, which under so many other situations would be deemed to be completely so, were it not for the local residents, the 4 local residents or interested parties or persons who are now known. There's no other resident, councillor or responsible authority who has made any representation against the application, as you know. It's always difficult when one makes an application in a hearing, when the objectors haven't made or have not been able, as in this case, to attend, because then we have to almost present their representations in order that we can rebut them.
Yes.
So if you could bear with me on that, it's a little tiny bit strange, but I would offer that this is a well-run operation operated by hugely experienced operators who have years of small store food operations behind them, and the hours sought, as I've said, are in line with the guidelines at 10:15 and phone policy at 7:16 on page 18, which I don't propose to read out in this instance because nobody else is here and you will know what they are. It's also important to reiterate at this stage there are no representations from the police in this regard, nor from any of the other responsible authorities because of section 9.15 in the guidelines. And again, unless you wish me to do so, sir, I wasn't going to read those out now because there's nobody else here who would not know what they were. So it is that we're here today to address the concerns of Mr. and Mrs. Howard, Mr. Baker and Mr. Walker. All the representations are made in good faith. We have no issues with them, it's just we don't necessarily agree with them. And so far as Mr. and Mrs. Howard are concerned, the relevant part of the representation is shared in that they are concerned about potential for late night drinking and litter and broken glass increasing, and they refer to the fact there are no toilets open, but the relevance of this relates to Sunday night for the extra half hour and of course Christmas Day and Good Friday for the half hour sort then, and no evidence is adduced, but rather it is a concern that they share. Mr. Baker is concerned about extra noise and potential for late night drinking, which could happen, he says. And Mr. Walker does not want the extra half hour as he feels it will cause antisocial behaviour, noise, litter. He has detailed what the antisocial behaviour was, but I choose not to detail that here. Litter and refers to potential mental health issues and late night drinking. All four interested persons, as you've been advised, were advised that the relevant part of their representations would relate to the half hour sought in the evening on Sunday, Christmas Day and Good Friday, and all four chose to pursue their concerns in spite of the fact that we are already licensed and enabled to be open until 2300 for the 7 days and licensed to sell alcohol until 2300 on the 6 days. No reference has been made to the early morning hours sought by Mr. and Mrs. Howard, and Mr. Baker did not refer to any specific issues with the early mornings, nor did Mr. Walker, rather that both referred to the fact that the previous licensees may have opened later in the morning than our clients, which I regret to say I can't comment on, other than to say that the internet indicates that they opened actually at 7 AM during the week and 8 AM on Saturday and Sunday. The fact is that we're not proposing anything other than half an hour on Sunday night and of course Christmas Day and Good Friday, plus the morning extensions, when otherwise we can already open 6 to 2300 7 days. It simply does not follow that selling alcohol to the extra half hour sort will lead to the issues raised, and if anything does start to emerge, it will be dealt with swiftly and efficiently by ourselves, and if that isn't the case, it will be dealt with swiftly and efficiently by the authorities. This is a community food stall, something that the operators are well used to, and it will be operated on that basis, and the operators are dependent on their business getting the local catchment area on side to survive. They will not tolerate the sort of issues that are concerns of the interested parties or persons. The guidelines are clear that representations made, if they are to be supported, must show a causal link to the application sought and be supported by evidence. And there is no causal link, nor importantly any evidence produced by any party, and there is no support for this representations from responsible authorities. And 9.12 in the guidelines sets this out. And if I may, sir, take the liberty of just reading the last sentence of 9.12, it says, however, it remains incumbent on all responsible authorities to ensure that their representations can withstand scrutiny to which they would be subject to at a hearing. And that, of course, must follow for any other representations made. The Act and the guidance are clear that the applicant has a responsibility only to sell alcohol to people who are of age and who are not drunk, and to those purchasing for people under age or under the influence of drugs they would not be able to sell to them. That said, the applicant is aware of their social responsibilities and your policy as well as the guidelines, and will strive to ensure that any issues that they may have influence over are addressed, and this will specifically include the provision of notices requesting that customers leave the premises quietly as per the guidelines. Also, whilst these matters have not been raised by way of representation, all of the staff are individually trained in the sale of alcohol and have to take a written test prove their understanding of the responsibility placed on them when authorised to sell alcohol. This authority is in writing per guidelines, and subsequently at no more than 6 monthly intervals, staff are retrained, retested in writing, and then reauthorised in writing to continue selling alcohol. This is progressively being moved across to computer-based training, but it's the same inference. A refusals log is maintained at the site, and Challenge 25 procedure is also embraced, with records kept in the refusals board as part of this process when refusals occur, and the store also benefits from a CCTV system, and all of this is embodied within conditions that we've agreed with the police. But nobody is actually alleging poor operation at the premises, or that we will be doing anything wrong, or that there is any issues here. It is a fear of what may happen, not supported by any evidence per the requirements of standing up to scrutiny at a hearing, and more importantly, that those fears are relevant to the application in the first place. That's my submission, sir.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Mitchener. Very, very cogent. Do either colleagues have any questions? John?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
The business rationale really for opening at 6 a.m. Is it has that been researched? The reason for opening that early is there any cogent reason for that?
It's a convenience store, sir. So stores open to reflect the demand in the local area. It's currently open at 6:30, and next summer it's proposed that it will start opening at 6 o'clock. But you don't go into a winter with COVID and everything else, pushing the hours out to 6 o'clock when it's patent that there wouldn't be that demand at the moment. But progressively the demand increases.
Okay, thank you. Chair, if I may just have another question. I noticed on Google there are tables and chairs at the front for an old shop when it was a Londis. Is that still the case?
You have me at a disadvantage, sir, because I don't know. That's something I would have to ask. The tables and chairs wouldn't be for a licensable activity because no licensable activity has been sought for that. And that's the only response I can give you off the cuff, as it were.
No, thank you. So I'm just concerned whether there is an opportunity for people to assemble outside. That's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, Sheila?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mitchener, and thank you for that great explanation on the way that the premises is run. Mine is just a question regarding like the DPS. Do you have managers sort of live on site?
No, usually the manager will have their own premises. It's very rare nowadays for stores to have on site. It may be that the manager here may live on site, but I'm not aware either way, if I'm honest with you. And I don't believe that the DPS's address on their application is this site address. But that isn't a normal way of operating stores such as this. I've been in this sector, goodness gracious, 46 years next month.
Yeah,
and it's very rare for stores to have the managers living upstairs. If there is accommodation upstairs, oftentimes it's rented out to other people.
Okay, thank you. And I think, Councillor Martin, the licence is just the red line, am I correct? So there wouldn't be, I know if there's outside and it's licensed, that it usually shows the outside. Am I correct in saying that? Because I did ask for the red lines to be sent through to us.
Chairman, it's Sarah. Can I answer that one?
Yes.
I've emailed through to you appendices 1 and 2 members, which show the appendices in colour.
Yes, except they don't for us, of course, Sarah.
Pardon?
They don't for us. We've got photocopies.
I've emailed you, Chairman, this morning. Appendices 1 and 2.
Right.
I've emailed you all. So red is the alcohol. I'm just pulling them up in just a second. I'm sorry, my computer's very slow. So red is the alcohol and effectively the boundary in this respect on the emails that you have. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so it doesn't include the outside.
Okay.
No, just inside.
That's very good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchener.
Okay, all right. Mr. Mitchener, I would like to ask a couple of questions, if I may. In your understanding of the management ethos of Wessex trading. Is it the case that the manager of this store would have some degree of discretion? As you said, there's no point in opening if there's no custom, and there's no point in staying open if there's no custom. Would they have a degree of discretion to be able to choose within the licensing hours when they open and closed?
Yes, sir, that's effectively how it works, although I'm not convinced it would be at the management level. It would be at the field management level.
Right.
Because obviously all these stores have area managers that assist the store manager to operate the store.
Yeah.
And then that area manager will report up to the appropriate director.
Right.
So it's a line decision, but
right.
It can be influenced by the manager pushing upwards.
Yeah.
And certainly at the moment, the store trades from 6:30 until 9.
Yes.
Because, as I've indicated, we're going into winter, and there's no point wasting everybody's time and everything else. But as we go through winter, we'll progress out to, actually it might be 9:30. But as we push out, as we get our feet under the table, because it is a new store to us, we then move out as we're more and more comfortable with what we're doing.
Okay. I think that's really helpful. The other point, which is a bit more of a detailed question, relates to the conditions that have been agreed with the police. And I just wanted to ask you a question about those conditions, because it seems to me, and I'm looking now at page 5 under the heading of CCTV, and there is a bullet point at the bottom of that page. I don't know if you've got the same papers as we have, which says all staff should be suitably trained for their job function and the operating standards for the premises. The training shall be under constant review, having regard to newly employed staff. And then going over the page, in my document anyway, this next bullet point says all staff should be fully trained to perform their role. And I just feel that it would be tidier in terms of making sure that we've got everybody trained properly at the right time if we stopped that first bullet point after the word review. So it says training should be under constant review, remove having regard to newly employed staff, and add to at the next bullet point, all staff should be fully trained prior to undertaking their roles, which means that there is not the risk that in the conditions that somebody would end up being there untrained. I don't know, that may not make any sense to you, and please say so if that's the case.
It makes complete sense to me. The only thing is, of course, that can only relate to a licensable activity. So
yes,
we have to ensure that it says in relation to alcohol sales, for example.
I think that would be
a member of staff could otherwise not be usefully engaged if they haven't been specifically trained. And I'm not being pedantic, but I know you understand how I'm trying to say this. Say we wanted somebody to go and clean a shelf.
Yeah.
It might be that we were breaking a condition on this license.
No, all right.
Haven't been trained.
I think you take the point.
Absolutely.
In which case, I think it would be really helpful to ask that when we come to our decision, if you would just amend that wording slightly. I think that would be helpful, perhaps.
I have no issue with that. I have no issue with that, as long as I say, it's reference to the sale of alcohol.
Yeah, okay, all right. No, got that point. That's absolutely fine. So if nobody else has any other questions for Mr. Mitchener, and we have no responsible authorities present to make any representations, the other persons, I would just wonder if either colleagues wish to ask Mr. Mitchener any questions about anything that is contained in the representations made by the other persons.
No, thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Mitchener, I think you dealt with the representations very thoroughly in your presentation. So, okay. So in that case, I think that Mr. Mitchener, you may wish to sum up.
Well, just in a few words, to put it to bed, as it were, just to say the act is clear, and we've got to be guided by the police and your officers. but the decision per the guidelines should be that where we're guided by your officers and evidence-based, and obviously nobody here has made representation. I have absolutely no doubt that the representations made are made in good faith and about worries that are held. But that isn't how, in my world, this Licensing Act is supposed to work.
No.
And it's a flawed device, it has to be said, but it's what we've got, and we have to deal with it and get on with it. And that is effectively what we're doing here today.
Yes, and just to be belt and braces here, I think in your original presentation you did refer to the management ethos of the company wanting to evolve their business in harmony with the neighbourhood that they're operating in.
Absolutely, sir. We're a community business. We're a community store, and Spa is arguably the biggest community store in Europe. And we wouldn't want to tarnish anything to do with that either.
Okay.
So that we can only survive if the community supports us, and we support the community. So that is what the whole ethos is, as you quite rightly pointed out.
Okay, all right. I think now, unless Mr. Andrews has got any questions to ask of you.
Hello, Chair. No, that's fine. Thank you.
No, okay. Then I think that we've arrived at the point where the subcommittee can retire. Mr. Mitchener, I'd like to thank you very much for your contribution this morning, which has been cogent and to the point. Very good. And as I said earlier on, we will come back with a decision which we'll read out, which you'll be able to hear on the live stream. I hope that's convenient to you.
It certainly is. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much indeed. And thank you very much to Sarah Kent as well, who will also be retiring, I think. Well, not joining us when we retire. And thank you all very much. And we'll announce a decision as soon as possible.
Thank you.
So, Sarah, Helen, I think you're now going to read out a prepared text.
Can I just quickly thank you all for your time?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It's Helen Snell. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1972 as amended, the press and public be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following business on the grounds that they would be likely to involve the disclosure of exempt information of the following description. Information in respect of which a claim to legal professional privilege could be maintained in legal proceedings, and that the proceedings, apart from the resolution, shall remain confidential. So can I have a proposer that we resolve that recommendation?
I'll
please?
propose.
Thank you, Councillor Biscoe.
I'll second.
And seconded by Councillor Martin. If I can just take a quick roll call. Councillor Biscoe.
Or
Thank you. Councillor Lennox Boyd.
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Martin.
4.
Thank you. That's carried. What I will now do is ask our live stream operator to pause our proceedings, and I will confirm when the live stream has stopped. Thank you. Chairman, it's Helen Snell, Democratic Services. I can confirm that we are now live.
Thank you, Helen. May I propose that we return to public session?
I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Sheila.
If we can just take a roll call then. Councillor Biscoe?
For.
Councillor Lennox-Boyd?
For.
And Councillor Martin?
For.
Thank you. That's carried, Chairman.
Thank you, Helen. Now we've reconvened in order to announce the decision that we've reached. So, Mark Andrews, could I ask you if you'd be kind enough to announce that decision?
Thank you, Chair. It's Mark Andrews from Legal Services. Can you just confirm you can hear me, please, Chair?
Oh, yes, absolutely, loud and clear.
Thank you very much. So the proposals as follows: arising from consideration of the report, the evidence, submissions from all parties in having regard to the statutory guidance, the Council's policy and the Licensing Act 2003, the application to vary the premises licence under the Licensing Act for the Spa Wadebridge be granted subject to the following. 1. Those conditions agreed with the police and set out in the report. 2. Any tables, chairs or other seating is to be removed from outside the premises between 19:30 hours and 07:30 hours in order to promote the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective. 3. The final bullet point at the bottom of page 5 of the report shall be amended to read as follows. All staff shall be suitably trained for their job function in the operating standards for the premises. Stop. The training shall be kept under constant review. 4. The first bullet point at the top of page 6 of the report shall be amended to read as follows. All staff shall be fully trained to perform their role prior to starting their role and at regular intervals thereafter. Stop. They will also be trained in the contents of the premises licence, including times of operation, licensable activities and all conditions. Dealing with the matters raised in the representations, members noted the representations received from the other persons in respect of the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective. Members noted that the representations referred to concerns about the premises being in a residential area and the risk of antisocial behaviour and littering if the application was granted. However, members also noted no representations have been received from any of the responsible authorities, including environmental protection, in respect of the application. Members felt that on balance there was insufficient evidence that there would be public nuisance caused by the variation. Members noted that if issues were to arise at the premises whilst they were operating under their licence which undermine the licensing objectives, then the premises could be subject to a review of its licence by the other persons or by the responsible authorities. That's the proposal, Chair.
Thank you. Mrs. Lennox-Boyd, would you like to propose that?
I would like to propose that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Martin, would you care to second that?
I will second that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to a roll call.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Biscoe?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Lennox-Boyd?
For.
And Councillor Martin?
For.
That's agreed. Thank you.
That's carried. Could I thank everybody who's participated in today's hearing, whether they've actually been present or whether they contributed in writing. Always good to have a lively debate around these matters. Thank you very much, and thank you to all the officers who've participated this morning. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ready.